Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Northwest Craftsman. Today I want to do a quick video on how to calculate the board needs for a large project, and in this case I'm making a conference room table. Now I have a whole bunch of nearly rough cut. I think it's actually S4S technically, so it's not really rough cut, but they're all different widths and all different lengths, and I need to calculate how many boards, which boards, and just basically figure out how do I get down to the wood that I need for the table itself. And so I wanted to walk you guys through my thought process so that if you're trying to put together how much wood you need for a project, you have a solid foundation to go, because I happen to have this wood on hand because I got a deal on it and I didn't know what I was going to use it for. But if you're going to be ordering from a hardwood dealer, you just pretty much need to tell them how many board feet you want to get, and so you need to be able to calculate how many board feet you need for your project. All right, here we go. Let's get talking. So here's the wood that I've pulled down for the table, and as you can see, they come in different widths and they come in different lengths. This one is wider than this one, which is about the same width as that one, but all of them are different lengths. They do all have the same thickness, which in this case is designated as 8/4. That's 8/4, where it's 8/4, which is 2 inches thick. I don't exactly know why woodworkers chose to go by 8/4, but it's in 1/4 inch increments. So if you've got 4/4, that would be 1 inch thick. If you've got 12/4, that would be 3 inches thick. So I've got 8/4 lumber here. That's the lingo that you're going to get when you go to your hardwood dealer. But the way that we measure how much wood you have here and the way that you're going to be charged when you're trying to buy these hardwoods is by the board foot. Now, a board foot is effectively a measure of volume of wood. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your thickness in inches times your width in feet times your length in feet, and that gives you your board feet. So in this case, I knew that on my table, I needed to have something like 73 board feet. And so I could have gone to the hardwood dealer and said, hey, I'm going to need 80 board feet or 90 board feet, because there's always a little bit of slack that you have as you're cutting out, say, inclusions like this in order to make your table. You never want to order exactly the amount of board feet that you have. The other thing to keep in mind when you're calculating your board footage is that you don't always need to use the same units that I had put forth. It just changes the way the math works in the end. And frankly, if you're getting a little bit confused with all this math, there's online calculators everywhere that can help you to calculate your board footage, and I still will almost always double check my board footage calculations with an online calculator. So I said you need to do inches thick by feet wide by feet long, and that gets you board feet directly, and it does. But you can also do inches thick by inches wide by inches long. You just need to divide by 144. Every time on your width or length that you're using inches, you need to divide by 12 to get it back into feet. So again, if you're getting a little bit confused with all this math, that's not a big deal. There's online calculators everywhere that make it super easy, but the short version is inches thick, feet wide, feet long. That's your board feet. So here is a hand-drawn version of the plan that I have moving forward. Basically, on my table, I know that I want it to be 4 feet wide. And then when I have it 4 feet wide, I also want it to be 12 feet long. So I can calculate the total board footage that I need for this table. But I want 2 different species of wood in this table. I want the outside perimeter to be walnut. And so given the walnut that I was able to purchase from my hardwood dealer, I can only get 4.5 inch strips that I can use all the way around. So with 4.5 inch strips, I can calculate the board footage that I need for that perimeter. So I've got 4.5 inches wide by 4 feet long by 2 inches thick, and then I need to divide that by 12 for one side, multiply that by 2 for the breadboard on the other side, and then do the same calculation for the 2 edges, and that gives me the board footage that I need for the walnut. Now I know that I want the entire interior to be maple, and once I take off the walnut exterior, what I'm left with is 39 inches wide by 11 feet and 3 inches long. As I said, I'm doing the 1/4 inch math in my head, but 11 foot and 3 inches long. And so I can calculate the board footage just like this to figure out how many board feet I need for the inside. But once I have that calculated, it's not going to be all one monolithic board. The longest board that I need in this case, if I was going to fill the entire space, is going to be 11 feet and 3 inches. But if I'm looking at this board, which is my longest here, see if I can't get it to go over that. That board, well, can't get it quite all the way, but that's fine. That board was just about, there it is, just about 11 feet on that. So I'm not even long enough to get the longest board in there. So I need to split it up. I need to split these boards up in a way that's going to make sense in the final table. And that's where it takes a little bit of thinking and planning at the front end. So coming back over to the whiteboard here, what I was doing on this whiteboard is trying to figure out how do I want to split the board so that I can work with it well. So inside here, I don't want to try and cut a weird off-end width so that everything is exactly the same thickness. Not to mention, I think that having one thin stripe through the middle actually provides some context. And in the final table, in the very center of the board, I'm going to be cutting out a square so that I can put some electrical panels in so that we can do some pass-throughs for electricity. So on this center board, I actually said I want to do 3 inches and split it into thirds because I'm pretty sure I'm going to cut that joint out right there anyways when I get to the end. But I wanted to go through and figure out how can I match partial boards on here so that I can eventually get a cut list, because once you can break down your boards to a cut list of how many of what width and what length do you need, it's going to be so much easier. Now, the reason I don't have thickness on here is because all of my boards are 8/4 lumber. And so I will run them through my planer. Once I get them cut down to these lengths, I will run them through my planer to make sure that they're all exactly the same thickness so that I can work with everything solidly. So there you go, guys. The planning process is pretty quick and easy. However, you really want to make sure that you're doing this at the beginning of your projects, and I make sure that I do it at the beginning of my projects because it saves me so much time in the end. It's always a little bit frustrating when I come out to the shop and I spend an hour going through a planning process when I'm not actually working with wood, but doing that little bit of time at the front end and making sure that I draw it all out and get it clearly laid out into a cut list really allows me to work efficiently when I'm in the shop and focus on working with the tools rather than working on how am I exactly going to fit all of these pieces together, and it saves me many mistakes down the road. If you guys have any questions about how I do this process, go ahead and leave it in the comment section down below and check out the rest of our videos that are going to be coming out on this particular build so that you can see how I'm building this table and all the cool skills that I'm learning throughout the course of this process. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Happy woodworking. Bye.